I think, as usual, you've articulated the emotional aspects of what's going on, but it's really getting out of control. Not with you, it's getting out of control with a lot of the comedians and the media. What's happening is the media can no longer understand that Flynn was not intended to remain in the National Security Agency. That's news. I said it from the beginning that we put in Flynn, but it was not intended to keep him there all the time. Mike Flynn is an excellent general in Defense Intelligence Agency. Many do not like him. We knew that. Many do not agree with him. We knew that. At the same time, it was Flynn and Bannon and a bunch of others who were able to get Trump over the hump and into the presidency. Now, I wrote a blog yesterday, which you guys received, and in that blog, I simply said, welcome to American entrepreneurship. In other words, we place people in positions, then we take them out. The chief of staff or the chief CEO, which is what Trump is, comes in and fires and fires. The reason why America is not used to this is America has become lazy. It has become surfeit. It has become non-capitalistic. When we put a businessman, this is the first businessman in 100 years that we've put into the presidency, the first thing the businessman does, and he correctly does, is he fires the people who have helped him. He fires the people who have not helped him, and it's not personal. We have no personal stake in this other than the fact that we wanted major change in the United States, and that is what major change looks like. You help somebody, and then you leave. The chief of staff may not be the chief of staff very much longer, Priebus. The person who's giving the press talk, Spicer, may not be the next chief speaker. And Flynn knew very well that given his personality, given the fact of how loyal he was to America and to Trump, that was enough to get him to the position that he needed to be, and he knew he would have to leave. Now, what in fact happened? Flynn did not commit any crimes, neither did anybody in the Trump administration. Let me go back to when I was in the Reagan and Bush administration, when Reagan and Bush sent out the individuals to Iran while I was involved with the Carter administration in the Iran hostage siege. So if they wanted to impose the Logan Act on Flynn or anyone else in the Trump administration, they better go back to Newt Gingrich, they better go back to Reagan and his staff and to Bush and his staff. I do not think they want to do that. There is no violation of the Logan Act. There is no transaction that regards money.
Sure, but what is the total attempt to overthrow Trump and the hysteria? You're right. It's crazy. Where's that coming from?
Well, it's coming from what you said and what we talked about. When people are ineffectual and they have been aced out, which is what happened to Hillary, it's what happened to Bill Clinton, it's what's happened to the entire left, it happened to the Democratic Party. They didn't know how fast we were moving in and how quickly we could eviscerate them. They're eviscerated. Everything else that's occurring is nothing but a bunch of sheeps bleeding out and complaining, but it has no effect whatsoever. If, however, they continue to make pronouncements like the following, that Trump is crazy, which he is not, that Trump is mad, which he is not, and this is made by psychologists, then I strongly recommend that Trump and the administration file suit against the American Psychiatric, against the American Psychological Association, and against every physician who has positively stated that. It's also medical malpractice. When I saw a group of psychologists, 30 of them, none of whom I knew, state categorically that Trump had mental illness, there is no reason whatsoever for anybody to make that kind of diagnosis unless they have seen Trump, they have gone and talked to him, and I would guarantee you that's not the conclusion you would come to. Now, let me go back into why it's important that Flynn left. Flynn understood that he had a limited time within the National Security Agency. It had nothing to do with Bannon. It had nothing to do with Jared Kushner. It had much more to do with a much more important triumvirate, which has a legitimacy in this administration. And that triumvirate has to be James Mattis, Secretary of Defense, Pompeo, Director of the CIA, and the other generals who are involved in taking care and maintaining our stability. Now, what am I saying? This is not a military coup. What it is, in fact, is a disciplined, highly professional staff who happen to have been military officers, ran major institutions in the thousands and thousands, who now are coming into the civilian ranks, running the government as it should be a professional organization. There are two elements that are going on here. First, Trump is cleaning out our government and our institutions as if we were a nation state. Obama never treated us as a nation state. Bush Jr. never treated us as a nation state, and neither did Clinton. They had no concept that this country was more than just a group of bureaucrats who ran an organization and made kumbaya. Now we're coming to very definitive points where we have to have trade with bilateral negotiations, not multilateral, where we have to sit down with the Canadian leaders, with the Mexican leaders, with the Japanese leaders. It's not an accident. Abe, who happens to be extremely bright and understands strategic positioning, that he came very quickly to the United States to have a relationship with Trump. So what does the press highlight. They don't understand the strategic importance of Japan. What they highlighted was the fact that there was a non-secure discussion in the dining room. Absolutely absurd. The most important element of that visit was not the security, was the fact that Trump could take Abe, Prime Minister Abe, on a golf course and talk to him over hours. That's exactly what Eisenhower did with all of the foreign leaders.
It looks like a civil war in the federal government to me, Dr. Pieczenik. What do you say?
Well, it may be perceived as a civil war, but you don't put a man like Rex Tillerson, who's run a $400 billion corporation all over the world, knows every country in the Middle East and Southeast Asia better than any Foreign Service officer.
No, I know he's great for the job.
He will clean out that State Department. I have run that State Department, and there have been 20,000 people. You could easily clean out 10,000.
No, I agree. So, I mean, why is this going on right now then?
Well, because I said they're frustrated. When you're impotent and frustrated, you go into rage, into a childish rage, and that's what's happening to the left. Can they affect the changes that we will implement? No. I can guarantee you none of the changes will occur. There will be no impeachment hearings.
So is that why all the other people I talked to say the intelligence community is almost completely behind Trump?
That's correct. Those who were involved in putting Trump in are behind him. And that's a major number of people in both the civilian and military intelligence. Contrary to what you hear from the Brennan and others who have left and will continue to leave.
That's my next question. What is wrong with Brennan? What is his problem?
His problem was, I don't want to get into Brennan. I mean, Brennan was an Irish Catholic who went to Fordham. He was not very bright. He went to Saudi Arabia, he converted. And when you don't have very bright people who have never really been trained to be professionals, have never been in combat, that's what you get. You get the slugs of the intelligence community. This new intelligence community is way different than anything else. The new man that we're getting in is a naval commander, vice admiral of the Navy Special Forces. He is far more talented in many ways than Mike Flynn. He will bring in his own team. He will then get rid of those who were brought in by Flynn. I and others who've been involved in regime change, including this regime change, can assure you that what you're seeing now is consequences of having a very rapid knife cut right through the heart of the Democratic Party, the nation, and the fact that the people who wanted to bring back capitalism, entrepreneurship, have succeeded. It's not something we're going to step back from. But let me assure you, the NSA, the intelligence community, the National Security Council, the White House, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Homeland Security. We created the counter coup. We're now in control. We're not amateurs at this. We have done this for 30 to 40 years. The Soviet Union is not our enemy. Neither is Russia. Even when I took it down, I said Russia will always remain our ally. Our ally will be now Saudi Arabia, Israel, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. So
who are the new allies in the new system?
The new system allies, and I got to give credit to Bibi, he brought together Saudi Arabia, UAE, Dubai, all sharing intelligence, and they all want to work with Jared Kushner to bring a solution to the Palestinians and Israelis. But I want to say it's a new approach. They understand that for now, the realignment in the Middle East is legitimate. Bashar Assad has had enough war. He doesn't want any more war. Iran needs to reconstitute its government, contrary to what other people said. Secretary of Defense is leery of Iran, which is correct. Tillerson understands Iran, understands the Middle East better than any other Secretary of State I've ever seen or met before. I haven't met the gentleman yet. And the Secretary of Defense is in great control. All his allies.
So we're seeing a temper tantrum by just the dregs that are trying to act tough and act big.
You're right. You're in the baby clinic now. You're in the Montessori school of Democrats where they're crying and yelling, pooping in their diapers, and basically can't do anything. They're just screaming and pooping. That's all it is. For the most part, we control the House, we control the personnel, we control the cash flows, we control everything. I'm not being complacent. I'm just saying to the people who have watched your show, who have been part of the revolution hasn't just stopped. It continues because part of that revolution is we clean out our own people. We then clean out those who are in our way. And then we continue to increase the growth. We continue to make sure that America does attain ascendancy. Their attempt to overthrow won't even get to page 1. Trust me. I've been in regime change for too long. We anticipated this. We understood it from day one. As I said to you very early on, years ago, we're going to have a major change.